Hey, everybody, it's Dave here. Finally, took a while to get this show ready for you all today. I want to appreciate everybody that's joined us from SKOL Mafia, Ms. Mary Fisk, Raymond, and Doc Proto already in the remarks. Have we got a show for you today? 3 themes, as usual. First one, fearless predictions. Oh, that one's going to go over well. Let's see how we go with that. Second one's going to be This Week in Vikingsland as we go over the things in the week that we want to talk about. And third and lastly, and most important, we're going to preview the game tomorrow. Your Minnesota Vikings have traveled to New York to take on the New York Football Giants. Hopefully, they're going to start out the season better than the team from Wisconsin did. All next on Two Old Bloggers. Rock! Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikingsland with Darren and Dave, your 2 old bloggers. Hey there, Darren. How you been? You were supposed to be with us Thursday night, but you weren't. Why?
Because I was on vacation and the wife had other plans. So sometimes things pop up. So I didn't make it. Second year in a row. I have watched some of the show. It looked like you guys are having a good time, and great to see Sal Spice in with First and SKOL, joining the First and SKOL team, and welcome back Justin Day. We haven't seen him in a while either. So if he wants to razz me, I can razz him. I've been around a lot more lately than he has.
Oh, want to welcome Derek and Aussie Viking and Norsefius. Scolders, yes, mount up. Let's get on with the show. First theme. Predictions.
Yeah, it's a new season upon us, Dave. So if you're a Vikings fan, you're either excited or extremely optimistic or maybe pessimistic. Feel free to say in the comments how you're feeling right now, what side of the, what part emotion you're feeling as a Vikings fan. But I thought it was a good time. We got a lot of questions right now, Dave, of course. Who's going to do what? How is the team going to do? What players are going to shine? Who's like here in your super show? Who are going to be like the breakout stars? All that sort of stuff. So I thought it would be kind of fun to maybe pose some questions, and you and I could give our answers to that. And hopefully people in the comments will provide us with their hot takes on those questions, and maybe have a few questions of their own. So let's get to it.
Sounds good.
On that. I think I got 6 questions, burning questions that we're going to try to answer, I believe, if my math is right.
Your first one was, let's get it started with question number 1. Will Sam Darnold be benched this year?
No, he will not. I think that Sam Darnold is going to play just well enough, often enough, that Kevin O'Connell will not bench him in favor of Nick Mullins. I don't think that's going to be good enough he's going to play well enough to get us to the playoffs. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But again, I don't think that the Kevin O'Connell is going to switch out and bench Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold is going to play well enough, again, often enough that he's not going to consider Nick Mullins as the better option, gives the Vikings the better chance to win in 2024. Now, if J.J. McCarthy was still in the picture, my answer would have been different. But we know J.J. McCarthy is not in the picture in 2024, sadly. So Sam Darnold is your guy, and I think the Vikings are going to ride him for as long as they possibly can, hopefully successfully.
Okay. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one. I think that if JJ was here, we'd probably be looking at JJ sooner rather than later. But since JJ is recuperating from his surgery and will be out the entire season, we're going to get Sam Darnold the whole season unless he gets hurt, which unfortunately has been a trend of his. So hopefully that does not happen. The wonderful medical wizards that are involved with your Minnesota Vikings take care of all these players and keep them healthy all season long. That brings us to question number... Sorry.
To the best of their ability.
Yes. Raymond says, and Sam we trust. Gary's here. Good to see you, Gary. We missed you Thursday. Hope you're doing well. That brings us to question number 2. Does Aaron Jones rush for 1,000 yards this season?
Yes, he does. Although this isn't the slam dunk you think it would be, because Jones has played 7 NFL seasons so far. He's only rushed for 1,000 yards in 3 of those 7 seasons. Now, a big reason for that has been opportunity, though, in that he was in a timeshare at running back all of those years, with either Jamal Williams and or A.J. Dillon. For a couple of years, it was both of them. And then injuries limited him as well last year and other years as well. He missed a few games due to injury. But I think that my feeling is that Aaron Jones, and he was raving about it this week, about how good he feels, how well the Vikings training staff that you just mentioned, that how they've been getting him primed up with his prehab, and not rehab, but prehab. I think he's going to be healthy. I think he's going to have a big season, and I think that he's going to play. He's going to have a year, actually going to eclipse his biggest rushing season, his single season rushing best, which was 1,000, which was in 2022. He rushed for 1,121 yards. He's going to eclipse that this year, even though the Vikings say they're going to try to split carries between him and Ty Chandler. I don't believe that's actually going to be the case. I think that Aaron Jones is going to get the bulk of those carries, however they're doled out. And I think also another reason he's going to get 1,000 is that the Vikings are intent on running the ball more this year. Wes Phillips and Kevin O'Connell have said that. So instead of slinging the ball 40 to 50 times a game, they're going to try to run it more. That's going to mean more opportunities for Aaron Jones, and more opportunities for Aaron Jones, particularly a healthy Aaron Jones, is going to lead to quite a bit of rushing yards for him and for the Vikings. And we like that.
I agree. We like that. It is... If you think of 1,000 yards and divide it by 17 games, it comes out to, off the top of my head, you're in a 60 percentage, 60 yardage per game. If he averages that, which I think he can on the ground easily, then he busts 1,000. I do believe that the run game this season is going to be more efficient. I don't think we're going to see massive, 3 runs, 1 pass type of deal that we had seen with the previous administration. I think we're still going to see high pass numbers, but I think the ability to run and hopefully getting up on some scores help facilitate him get to that 1,000-yard mark. And as Nick said, when you combine in pass catching, it'll be well over 1,000. Hopefully it will be 1,000 rushing and, 300, 400, 500 yards pass catching would be a sweet total for him at the end of the season. And that he remains fresh, remains limber, and, knocks it all out. Now, whether they go with a 60-40 split, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how O'Connell does it. But I think O'Connell, if he is banging away and doing well, I think he's going to stick relatively with a hot hand, other than hey, it's your turn to rest. Now let's put in Ty Chandler. But we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah, and those opportunities, those rushing opportunities, how many he and Ty Chandler get are dependent as well on partly on the Vikings passing game and being able to churn out first down after first down and giving you the opportunity to have long drives that use lots of clock and give Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler the opportunity to get more lathered up and get more carries, as opposed to some years, even last year at times where it's 3 and out. Punt, 3 and out, punt. And you only get one run or maybe no runs in those, a few of those drives. Not much chance to get 25, 30 carries, rushing carries when that happens.
Mm-hmm. So I agree. That brings us to the next question. Will Justin Jefferson break Calvin Johnson's single season receiving record of 1,964 yards?
And he was on pace to do that last year and even after he got back, he picked up right where he left off, but the injured hammy cost him the chance to be able to do that. I don't think that Justin Jefferson will break Calvin Johnson's record in 2024. The main reason is because of Sam Darnold. I don't think that he's going to, he talked about having the connection this week and that, getting and then wanting Sam Darnold to trust him and throw the ball to him even when it looks like he's covered. I think he eventually had that trust and that connection with Kirk Cousins. They had a very good chemistry. It resulted in a pretty good partnership between those two and a lot of catches and a lot of yardage the past 2-3 seasons for Justin Jefferson. I don't know if I'm not confident that we're going to see that in this year with Sam Darnold. So it's not because Justin Jefferson can't, it's not because he's not good enough to do that, but I think that the quarterback has a lot to do with the kind of numbers that a wide receiver puts up. And I still think he's going to be very productive. I think he's going to get about 110 catches, but the yardage is going to be maybe a little bit lower than it has been the previous couple of years. And I'm thinking maybe 1,500, 1,600, not anywhere near Calvin Johnson's record. In 2025, though, when we get J.J. McCarthy starting, maybe that's when it happens, Dave.
Oh, it very well could then. But I disagree with you.
Disagreement is healthy.
Yes. Now, we know what Justin Jefferson did with Kirk Cousins. I think Sam Darnold is roughly equivalent to Kirk Cousins when it comes to quarterback play, or can be roughly equivalent. Let me put it that way. Can be roughly equivalent. We know that Kirk Cousins was a 500 quarterback up until when Kevin O'Connell got here and they won the 13 games. And that was the year that Kirk Cousins suddenly discovered that he can trust Justin Jefferson. And that was there. I do believe that Sam Darnold has already started to build that trust early in this relationship. And he's been throwing a lot to Justin Jefferson from what we heard through all of training camp, which is going to be interesting. We know Justin Jefferson can catch the ball. Nick Mullins threw him 400 yards last year. He can catch the ball. As long as it's in his zip code, he's going to be able to catch the football. So, do I believe that Sam Darnold can get it there often enough and that he's not afraid to throw it there when Justin's doubled, and he's going to be doubled? We know that's going to happen. I believe he can. And was yesterday, day before, on an interview that JJ did. JJ was talking about how he doesn't care about records, right? Because somebody had asked him what happens if you get, this or that and whatever. He goes, I don't really care about records. He goes, what about the 2,000-yard mark? And he goes, that one I do care about. That and winning championships. So if he really does care about that one, and that was his reaction, it was a suddenly light up, no, that one I do care about. I think that's sort of motivation for him. So I think he's going to push it that he gets the ball a lot. And I hope that's the case. Like I said, I think our running game's going to improve, but I don't think we're going to run a whole lot more. I think because of Kevin O'Connell, we're going to sit there and Phillips, we're going to sit there and throw the football for the majority. We just hope that the running game's a lot more efficient and that we run the score up and can then run out ball games. But if not, I think he's going to get a lot of balls, and I'm all for it. Now, will he pass, who was the greatest, the biggest accumulation? And you got to remember, Megatron was the prime target. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But I'm going to take Justin Jefferson on that one, and I'm going to say he's going to go for that 2,000 yards. Can he do it? Oh, absolutely. Will he get enough balls, and will the Vikings be good enough this year against a tough schedule? That's going to be where it gets close, but I think it is quite feasible this season. And so my vote is Justin gets it. And we see lots of smiles.
Yeah. Well, I guess one factor that may help him, and it's not great for the Vikings, but it may help him get a good quick start on that, is the fact that TJ Hawkinson, unfortunately, isn't going to be available for at least the first 4 games. So a lot of the balls, we know they're going to try to throw to Johnny Munt, but Johnny Munt is not the tight end that TJ Hawkinson is, and probably doesn't warrant the amount of targets that TJ Hawkinson would normally get. So some of those targets, they're going to go to JJ.
You are 100% correct, and I didn't even think of that one. So, all right, let's move on to question number 4. Will the Blake Brandel experiment at left guard work?
I don't think it will. This is year 5. I think this is year 5 for Blake. And he hasn't played a whole lot. His grades Pro Football Focus, and we know they got problems there. I didn't realize Sam Monson has left Pro Football Focus. I heard that like a week or 2 ago. Maybe it happened months ago. But anyway,
it was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So, but his grades have always been very mediocre when he has played. To be fair, a lot of the part of those snaps were at tackle, and he is now our starting left guard. Tyler talked about this on the Super Show. You guys delved into that with the Ed Ingram thing, where he thinks that moving inside, where Blake Brandel doesn't have to deal with the edge rushers, that maybe guard is a better fit for him. He's a bit bigger than you would. Most guards are a bit taller anyway. It's 6'6". So we'll have to see how that goes. But I just, until I see it, I can't believe it. Blake Brandel was a 7th round draft pick. We didn't even think he'd ever make the team. He did make the team, stuck around as a reserve guy, practice squad guy to start, then reserve guy, has gotten in some work when guys have been injured, hasn't really looked that great when he's done so. And when he had played in the past, again, this is when he was at tackle that I noticed that the Vikings gave him a lot of help. Having a guard slide over, I believe it was Ezra Cleveland in most cases, slide over to help him, and it still didn't always work. So I got to see it to believe it. But Dave, if it does work out, that's going to be a massive, massive positive for the Vikings offensive line to have a guy in the interior playing solid football, because Garrett Bradbury makes me nervous. Ed Ingram makes me nervous, even though you guys talked about that on the Super Show too. How he's could be, Tyler's breakout candidate, isn't playing as badly as some of the rankings, say he is. However, he still makes me nervous. But I think year 3, hopefully he'll keep improving like he did last from his rookie year to his second year. But if Brandel can step in there and be solid right away, and we got the tackles that we do, and Bradbury he's not terrible. He's about middle of the road center, I think, and Ingram improves. Hey, I think your offensive line is looking, not too bad in that case. If Brandel can thrive at guard, I just don't think that he is going to. I think but the Vikings don't seem to be worried about it at this point.
I don't think they have a choice. There isn't anybody available that's going to slot right in. And that is better. There's nothing out there. And I've talked about how quality O-lineman is in a drought for a variety of reasons. This is part of it. Now, the big nerd stat people across the league, various service, think our offensive line is going to be fine. It's going to be, before this season, they have it ranked as 11th. If we're 11th, we're going to be fine. Now, do I think Blake Brandel can make the transition to guard? Well, this is the first time he's gone into a season as a starter with one position. It's all he's had to worry about. He hasn't had to worry about, I'm the swing tackle. I got to move this way, that way. Oh, no, I'm also now adding swing guard into that. So if somebody moves, I got to do this. So I got to learn all this stuff. Well, he's learned all that stuff previously. So this time, this off season, he sits there and can focus on, this is what I need to do. I'm not worried about his size. There's been good guards at 6'7". I'm not worried about his size. And I think this might actually help him versus playing tackle, because I think he's going to be more suited for guard. Like I've always said, half the tackles drafted in the draft end up being guards. It's just the way it goes. Hopefully he's gotten with somebody in the offseason, and we'll see, other than just one or two drives in the preseason, we'll see that he is capable of playing this job. They're betting on it. It is the absolute gamble they're taking on the offensive line. And I hope O-line coach Chris Cooper is, he's betting his job on it, basically, that Bradbury and Ingram are the guys that can do their thing. Now, found out something this week that I did not know. Ingram came into camp out of shape. Now I'm like, why'd you come out of shape? He supposedly had some sort of off-season injury that precluded him from being in shape when he came into camp, and they were trying to get him into shape, and that's one of the reasons he got so much playing time. I shake my head at Ed. I want Ed so much to take that step, right? And like when we went and watched the last game, play by play, he only lost a couple plays, and I consider only one. And you don't want to lose, as an offensive lineman, you don't want to lose your rep. As long as you can maintain and not lose, you're doing fine. Now, when it comes to run blocking, that's when you need to be aggressive. You need to be able to open up holes. Will Brandel help with opening up holes? That's the whole deal about Dalton Risner, is he wasn't a good run blocker. Let's hope so. And we'll find out. And the extra weight that Bradbury put on, we'll find out. They've got a heck of a test coming up tomorrow. And we'll get into that.
The third talk about being thrown into the fire. I don't know how much Dexter Lawrence's helmet is going to be lined up next to Blake Brandel, but he's a handful. And you're mentioning about Ed Ingram being out of shape, Dave. You mentioned that piqued a thought on my mind. You know how in the preseason we talked about, geez, the Vikings are playing Ed Ingram a lot in the preseason. Is his job on in jeopardy there? Well, if you come in out of shape, maybe the feeling was one way to get him into shape is play him in the preseason. So
it's what they used to do in the olden days when they had longer camps too. So, but I don't know. It was the first time I heard it, and I heard it on one of the podcasts I listened to from the beat writers, and I was like, whoa, okay. Now, that brings us to question number 6. What will the Vikings record be in 2024?
Ooh, are we missing one?
Did we?
Is the Vikings going to be top 10 defense?
Okay, you go that. And I don't have any graphics for that one. I missed loading that one. Go ahead.
Yeah. I say yes, and I'm going to not only going to be a top 10, I think that they're going to be a top 5 unit. That's there. I said it. That's how much I believe in Brian, the Maestro Flores, and what he does. And I think that the talent is better. If he had a top 14, 15 defense, or I think they were 11th in points given up, but they were sort of middle of the pack last year. If he was able to get that out of the talent he had last year, well, I think that they're much better and much deeper this year on defense. They had Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel. They drafted Dallas Turner, Blake Cashman they brought in, Shaq Griffin, signing Gilmore. I think that Flores is going to be able to do more things with that personnel that he's added on top of the players he already has to work with. So I think that the Vikings defense is going to be a problem for NFL offenses this year, and they're going to be a big reason why they're going to keep us in a lot of games. They kept us in games last year. They're going to keep us in more this year, and they're going to be tough to score on this year. So really tough. They're going to be one of the top defenses in the NFL, I think. Maybe I'm a little bit got the purple Kool-Aid, drinking too much of the purple Kool-Aid there, but that is my prediction.
I like it. I like it very much. I've called for them to be top 5 as well. And I agree. They're going to keep us in games. They're going to keep opponents low scoring. We always used to talk about the Mendoza line. And we called the Mendoza line, I think it was 21 points, 20 points, 21 points.
At one
point it was 17.
Yeah, 15, 16, 17, the Zimmer heyday, 17 points was the Mendoza line.
Right, because the whole idea was if you kept the opposition from scoring 17 points, he can eke out 18 points out of his offense and win the game.
Yeah, and our offenses, particularly in 2015, weren't quite the high-flying pass, throw the ball all over the place that we've seen in recent years, especially with Cousins. So,
all right, back to question number 6. What will the Vikings record be in 2024?
Yeah, I might get killed by the crew here or not. I think that the Vikings record, again, the media, the national media, football media does not think very much of the Minnesota Vikings coming in. Everything I see is they're going to be 25th, 24th, 25th, 26th, somewhere around that. But the bottom 10 of the NFL. I think that they are not going to be nearly that bad. I think they're going to be better than the national media thinks. But playoffs, I'm not convinced of that just yet. And that's because of the Sam Darnold thing. And I know we hear it we've been hearing it since he signed, right? The best situation he's ever been in. Look at the weapons he's got to work with, et cetera, et cetera. It's all true. Crappy situations in Carolina and the New York Jets. He had Adam Gase as his head coach. His number one wide receiver was Robbie Chosen, or maybe it even wasn't. At Carolina, he went 4-1 when he had Christian McCaffrey and in the lineup, and then when he lost it, blah 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 blah. Sure, but the stats are the stats. The facts are the facts as far as how many interceptions he's thrown, what his completion percentage has been, how many yards he's thrown. So that leaves me with doubts. There's promise there, but I've got doubts. So I don't think that this is going to be Baker Mayfield 2.0 this year. I'm happy to be proven wrong. And that's why even with our defense, and the schedule's tough. We know the schedule's tough. I think the defense is going to be really good this year. They're going to keep us in a lot of games. Hopefully Darnold doesn't screw it up too much, but I see us going 9-8 and just not quite getting one of those wild card spots with that record. That's what I've got us going at.
You don't see a Baker Mayfield type of deal where he comes in and rejuvenates his career?
Well, I'll be thrilled if it does happen, but for that to happen 2 years in a row with two different teams and two different quarterbacks, and I think people are using the Baker Mayfield case and saying that's what Sam Darnold can do, and sure, it could happen, but will it happen? I don't think it's going to quite play out quite that swimmingly for Sam. But again, yes, he can spin a ball. He's got great arm talent, more mobile than Kirk Cousins ever was, and more mobile than I think you were myself, but I would have given him credit for before, watching him play a little bit, particularly in preseason in that one drive. But still, a lot of questions for me. And tomorrow we'll get the first taste to see if Sam Darnold can be this year's Baker Mayfield.
We're going to find out. It's going to be interesting. And like I said, I think if Kevin O'Connell can do this, Sam's got the talent. It's just the mental portion of it, just like Kirk Cousins. A little bit different mental issues, but if he can get him to overcome it, Sam can be a successful starting quarterback in this league. And that's what we all want, because we want a good season. And we're going to be happy to see Sam go and get paid big bucks next year to go to some other team and bother their fan base. But hopefully this year he learns, KOC gets what he needs to out of him, and we have a good record. But the whole question is, what did you see the record as being? I didn't hear a definite win and loss from you. What do you think?
9-8. 9-8. Man, 9-8. I did say that. Okay. Aaron said below, Darnold just doesn't have to go Nick Mullins on us, which is true. But that is a problem he's had. I think he's averaged 2.2 turnovers per his career, something like that. Kevin Seifert had a story about that yesterday.
Yeah, got almost as many interceptions as touchdowns. It's a problem, but like I said, hopefully KOC works on that, and we're going to surprise people. I'm thinking, I've gone on the record, I think it's going to be a 10-win season, maybe 11, but we're going to have to find out. Yes, the schedule is tough, but we'll see. I think it just got easier by early game up in Wisconsin, or over in Wisconsin, but we'll see. Well, that ends theme 1 and the prediction phase of the show. And this is where I'm probably going to cut and put an ad so we can earn a few extra dollars. So Darren can buy some beer up there. I can buy some bourbon down here, and we can have a good time. Now on to theme 2. And theme 2. And I just hit the wrong. No, there we go. This week in Vikingsland.
Yes, sir. Our roundup of news and notes from the week in Minnesota Vikings territory, where we kind of, some things that caught my attention, maybe not have caught our viewers' attention, but caught my attention. So I wanted to mention them. First one we're going to talk about is just Kevin O'Connell announced the team captains earlier this week, chosen by the players themselves. Now, to remind you, in case you forgot, the captains are Darnold, CJ Ham, Justin Jefferson. You got the picture there. Brian O'Neill, Metellus, Harrison Phillips, Harrison Smith, and Andrew DePaula. Jefferson, Ham, O'Neill, Smith, and Metellus were all team captains last year. So the newbies are Phillips, DePaula, and Darnold. I think as far as the newbies, Harrison Phillips he's a respected veteran presence, even though this is only his third season with the Vikings. You saw him step up into that leadership role with how he and Josh Metellus stood in next to Brian Flores in his Flores' first presser when he, after his first presser after the Tua Tagovailoa story came out. I think that's a kind of an indication of the kind of locker room guy that Harrison Phillips is. So he's a great choice, and not surprised that he got chosen as a team captain for the Vikings. DePaula, he's been with the Vikings since 2020. He made the All-Pro team last year as a long snapper, a very core special teams guy, probably a special teams leader along with CJ Ham. So I can see why they've got him on the team, another respected guy. I think Darnold was the interesting one for me because he's been with the Vikings for 6 months, right?
Yep.
And I didn't know. You hear all the players have had nothing but good things to say about him, which isn't surprising over training camp. But and also not surprising is that usually the quarterback is going to be a team captain because Cousins was a team captain last year. He was the team, and if the player who is occupying the most important position on your football team is not a team captain, that probably says something about that quarterback and not something good either. So, but I think it's encouraging, even though I'm not bullish on Darnold, as you may have guessed in the previous segment, but I think it's encouraging that the teammates in just a short time feel that this is a guy that should be a team captain, is a team leader, even though he's only been with the team for 6 months. So a good on Sam Darnold. I'm glad to see him in there, and now let's see him lead the team on the field with his play, which will help him in the locker room as well.
Yes, I agree. We're going to find out, but I always think starting quarterbacks are almost automatics to get the captain spot. A quarterback, especially a starting one, is supposed to be a leader, and if they're supposed to be one, they should have the C. You want them to have that sort of respect. So we'll see. We'll find out. I mean, he's got Brian O'Neill on there, so, and it's generally used to be the captains were the ones that talked to the referees and said yes. They'd look over to the sidelines, get what the coach wanted on any sort of decision, but they'd be the ones, and I have no problem with it. So it's going to be fun.
You're Alexander. You just go rogue. The overtime coin toss.
Yeah. But I did like that the Wilfs had suggested and started that they're calling this the Captain's Club or whatever it is, the Vikings Captain's Legacy, and that they've made a whole deal and they're naming it after Jim Marshall. And they've made a whole display and they've got a list, it's the purple one on the right, with all the captains in team history. And they're going to honor Jim Marshall at the game next week at home as being the head captain of the captains. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
We've got some pretty cool owners in that respect. So, and there's a lot of good players on that list.
Oh, yeah.
If you have a chance, go online and check it out. It is, there's some names. So, it's good. Good. Now, from there, the next topic you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the quarterbacks, Dave, and just Jaren Hall, of course, got released on 2 Thursdays or a Thursday ago, not this Thursday, but the past Thursday, and then the Vikings signed Brett Rippon on Monday as their third quarterback. And so there was a bit of surprise that online, even amongst you and me, that Hall got cut. My opinion was when you sent me the note was just that, well, I don't really like this move. Like Rippon isn't any better than Hall, and Hall's a bit younger. So why did you do this? Now Rippon did have a good preseason, pretty strong one with the Bears. But I think Kevin O'Connell, they said it. I think he started 4 games in the NFL. One of them was okay. but he just has a little bit more starting experience. And I think after the Mark Wilf kind of said, hey, losing your starting quarterback is no excuse for losing football games. I think Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, their asses puckered up quite a bit, and they weren't so keen on keeping Jaren Hall around as their number 3 guy. So they got rid of him. They did want to keep him on the practice squad, of course. But Hall decided to sign with the Seattle Seahawks. And I understand Hall doing that, because here's a guy that he comes in, maybe he felt he needed a fresh start, and maybe he felt kind of maybe even a little bit, this isn't something we've heard much with the Vikings in the Kevin O'Connell era, but maybe he felt a little bit, I don't know if lied to, but not disappointed with being cut by Kevin O'Connell, considering, he had that rough game against Las Vegas in the first preseason game, but he comes back and he bounces back and he plays very well against the Brownies, plays even better against Philly, makes the 53. And then a few days later, as soon as the O'Connell and Wes Phillips thought they had a better option, boom, they cut him. They cut him and they say, oh, we'll bring you back as the number 4 guy, which means you've got no chance of playing. So for him, hey, I understand him going to Seattle. They only have 2 quarterbacks on the roster right now. He's their 3rd guy on the practice squad. He's got a better chance to play there than he would in Minnesota. So I understand that. I guess the disappointing thing here, Dave, is that we also learned, I think Scoops Wilson said that the Seahawks were interested in Hall and tried to acquire him from the Vikings before the season started, in the offseason. And we don't know if that's true, although Wolfson's usually, he's pretty well respected on the scoops and the sports journalism side of things. So I think there's something to that. We don't know what they offered Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and maybe it wasn't really, the offer wasn't worth its while. But if you've watched this show for the past few months, and a lot of people here have, I'm concerned about the Vikings draft capital in 2025, or lack thereof, where we've only got 4 draft picks. Well, it seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. Even if we could have got a 7th rounder for Hall in the offseason, when we didn't get it, and now we ended up cutting him and getting nothing for him, and he goes to the team that wanted him anyway, just seems like a little bit of a missed opportunity to add some draft capital when we have so very little of it in 2025.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that the offer by the Seahawks wasn't enough to spur anything, and that's what it is. Now, we're speculating on the Wilfs driving this. It's not for sure. I see Wilf's, comments about them sticking in their nose in. They're good, very, very good owners otherwise. And I think the owners get a little bit of leeway and grace when they do stick their nose in. It's their team. They want things certain ways. So you try to make them happy because you want to make your bosses happy, and they sign the paychecks. So that's sort of the way the world works.
It is.
They're not as bad as Jones down in Dallas, et cetera, and there's other ones that are lots worse. But we'll see. It surprised me that Jaren was let go, but it does not surprise me that Jaren, especially, obviously knew that Seattle had interest and that the numbers are better there. He went to Seattle, and it's closer to Utah, so might do that as well.
I guess the whole thing about releasing it a missed opportunity, but people were surprised and a bit upset. I think at the end of the day, Dave, a year from now, I don't think we're going to be regretting cutting Jaren Hall.
As much as I would cutting them this year. But
no, I guess I mean fans. I don't mean the Vikings brass, but how I like, we drafted him. So I was interested in seeing the Vikings develop him as a young developmental guy and see where that took Hall and the Vikings. That's not going to happen. And he was a 5th round pick, very slim odds of even being a capable backup in the NFL when guys are picked that late in the draft. And just like the Kenny Nwangwu cut, which was also a bit of a surprise, I don't think that one's going to really come to bite the Vikings in the ass, and I don't think this one will either. But it happened, and it's too bad we couldn't have got a draft pick for Jaren Hall. But yeah, that was
or Wongwu for that matter.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about Kane is obviously he was picked up off of waivers from the Saints and failed the physical.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there now as a free agent and hasn't been picked up by anybody, which begs the question, what's wrong with Kane?
Well, remember last year he missed time for, I think it was a back issue. And yeah, I think it was a back issue. It wasn't really, I don't really remember what the injury was, but he was out for a while, and maybe he's got something chronic with him. But yeah, it was surprising that he would fail the physical with the Saints, but he didn't fail. Didn't he take a physical with the Vikings? Like, I don't like. So yeah,
it's interesting. Well, that brings you to your next bit of information from this guy who I'm starting not to like.
That's right, Dave. Yeah, you're not a big I mentioned earlier the Vikings aren't getting a lot of love from the NFL media, national media this offseason. You can count ESPN's Seth Walder among them. Walder wrote an article simulating how the 2024 NFL season was going to go, and he's not bullish on the Vikings' chances in 2024. That article, I think it came out Monday or Tuesday, that he wrote. He has the Vikings going 4-11 and getting the number 1 overall pick, largely because he doesn't think, stop me if you've heard this before, I think the Sam Darnold experiment is going to work. This is one man's opinion, and it's opinion that I think is going to be proven wrong when the 2024 season wraps up. However, if it did happen, Dave, this would be a bad year to have the first overall pick. And also, if you get the first overall pick, you get the first pick in every other round too. You're the first one up. So and it 1 through 7, and it'd be bad because other teams that would actually going to be reaping the rewards of picking that early instead of the Vikings due to the trades made this offseason in previous years by GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. I'm not ragging on him about this, but just to recap, the Texans hold our second round pick in 2025. Thanks to the pre-draft trade that Adofo-Mensah made to get Houston's 23rd overall pick, which we ended up using in the Dallas Turner trade, and moving up from 23 to 17 to get Turner. Jacksonville now has our 3rd and our 4th round pick in 2025. Vikings don't have a 6th or 7th rounder in the 2025 draft either because those picks went to the Browns, who got them when they traded for Zadarius Smith in 2023. I bet you a lot of people don't remember that we gave up draft picks to trade Zadarius Smith. So not a lot to work with in the 2025 draft so far for Kwesi, and he didn't make any trades during training camp and cut down day to acquire any 2025 draft picks, a topic we discussed back in, I think, March. So holding the number overall pick would give the Vikings a lot of leverage on teams looking to get that number 1 overall pick and select their quarterback of the future, because the Vikings aren't going to need that. They aren't going to do that. They've got JJ McCarthy, and you're going to be able to get a king's ransom for that. Like the Bears in 2023, when they traded the number 1 overall pick, Dave, they got DJ Moore plus 4 draft picks, including 2 first rounders and 2 second rounders. Now, they were not all in the same year, of course, but that is a good haul. But still, even if the Vikings were to finish number 1 overall, they're going to trade that number 1 away and get a lot for it. But, Houston, Jacksonville, and Cleveland would all be benefiting from our poor play in the 2025 draft.
But like you said, we've spent those picks already.
Yes.
It started back with TJ Hawkinson.
Mm-hmm.
We spent forward picks on that, and we keep spending future picks. That's Kwesi's operating system. And they're usually in trades, not in the draft, because Kwesi's draft picks are getting better, but they're lacking. So, yes, if we finished high, especially if it was number 1, the season would be a disaster if that happens. And 2, it is what it is. Yeah, those other teams will be smiling all the way to the bank. Hey, that's the cost of doing business. You're gambling when you do these things. And he's supposed to be good at it. we'll find out, or learning to be good at it. Different approach. We'll see. But
I like your
hopefully,
picture.
whatever those picks are, probably around the 20 mark.
Yes, that's right. The better the Vikings do, the lower those picks will be, and the less that those other teams will be profiting from the trades that they made.
Wyatt, I love your avatar there. He's talking about Reichert being a good selection. I think that will be.
Yes, so far looking pretty good there.
And if he fails, Ergo says he's screwing over the future GM. Which is a true point. And that's, I think, one of the reasons Spielman went so far ahead on cap and everything else was if he failed, he's screwing the next guy, which was crazy.
Yes.
That's how that system rolls. All right, now we get to the last thing that you want to talk about. And I should have had a picture of beating a dead horse, but here we go.
Yeah, well, I did want to get to the Mike Zimmer story that Mark Craig did. I know you talked about it last week at length. You on the Real Forno show, Tyler talked about it. Everybody's had the kick at the can in Vikings podcast land and elsewhere, but I just felt I had to say something about it as well.
You want your kick?
I want my kick, I guess. I thought I had something maybe a little bit different to say, but maybe not. But anyhow, the story came out and there was talking about, why'd they come out with it now? And what's Zimmer trying to accomplish? And how this might impact the Vikings season. And it's not going to impact the Vikings season. Mike Zimmer he hasn't been here in 3 years. There's only a handful of players who were coached by Zimmer during that time. So it's got it's going to have no impact on the Vikings this year. All it does is make Mike look bad. And he's not with us anymore. So why do we give a fuck? Right. But
he's part of Vikings history. That's why
he is, but he's not part of it now. And what he said about what happened in 2021 is not going to impact the Vikings, what they do in 2024, one bit. But I think, this story coming out now, if you're Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell, you're actually quite happy that this story came out, because as you're, looking for an extension and you haven't got it yet, but you can point to the story and say to the American Ziggy Wolf, like, hey, see, this is why you hired us. This is why you want to keep us around, because under us, this sort of thing isn't happening. It's not going to happen. We've developed a completely different locker room culture here. Players want to be here. They rave about our coaching staff, our training staff, our facilities. You're building an organization that everybody wants to go to. So great timing for them, I think, for this story to come out. They've got other things that what happens on the field is ultimately going to determine if they stick around beyond when their contracts are, say they're going to expire. But hey, again, like for them, this story was just, I think it just provided some emphasis on that they are building great things in Minnesota with the way that they operate. When I heard of this on the Score North podcast, but apparently like even players that are getting cut by the Vikings, like Lewis Seen, his team apparently was very happy with how Kwesi Adofo-Mensah handled the whole situation. Not a great situation to get cut when you're a first round pick, but they felt that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah handled it with as best as he could handle it with a lot of class and tried to help Lewis Seen. And that's got to count for something in the NFL amongst the players that play for you now or might be considering playing for you in the future. So Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman probably wouldn't be doing that.
Well, like Mike Zimmer leaving, they asked him, would you address the team? No, why should I? They got me fired. Well, that seems different from the approach Kwesi took when he's released players, which is the same thing. you're being fired. So
Yeah.
you weren't good enough. But it is what it is. We're going to move on. Mike's going to have success or not down in Dallas. And what the Vikings do is completely 100% independent of him. So we move on.
We will.
And that ends this week
in Vikingsland.
And now on to theme 3, the big one.
Ooh.
And this one, we're talking about your Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Giants.
Indeedy. First game preview of the year.
Mm-hmm.
This one's always tough, Dave, because everybody's basing a lot of how they think the game's going to go on what happened last year. Well, a lot's changed since last year for both teams. There's new players, new coaches in some positions. And what was true in 2024 or 2023 isn't always true in the next season. So a lot of guesswork. It's tough to do a preview of the first couple of games because teams there hasn't been any trends that have emerged. You don't know what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are at this point, what are teams doing well, what are they not doing well. You're just basing it on what they did well and didn't do well last year. But nonetheless, we're going to do it anyway because it's the first game of the year and we're pumped about it. And now we're going to start with Dave's world famous slides.
Yeah, we're going to introduce, for those that are new, we're going to introduce you to the slides. This is where we take the nerdy stats that are out and about. We compile them together. It's sort of like the Drew and Ted and Chris over on their show do their salute to the past when you had Jimmy the Greek on, and they would go through the board and say who's got the better quarterback, who's got the better coaches, who's got all that. Well, this is the more modern day rough equivalent of it when we get into analytics that try to pick out where there's some trends and who's the best. And of course, I always start out with what, Darren?
The quarterbacks.
Why?
Because it's the most important position in sports. So, and if you got the better quarterback, you're going to win, what is it, 80% of the games?
80%
usually?
of the games. Without a doubt. So the number's over 80%. 80% or better every year. The better quarterback wins the game. That's the most simple way to break down a football game when you're looking at it as quarterback. Now, the only people that have active live time stats right now is PFF. And most of these are still taken from last year with slight adjustments as they're projecting. And on this one, we see that their power ranking has Sam Darnold number 29. that boosts up your argument. And Daniel Jones number 21. Now we go to the second slide, which we get into the quarterback in more detail. We break things down. We have the PFF grades, right? We have their passer rating when clean, their passer rating when under pressure, their big time throw percentage, their turnover worthy play percentage, then the power rating and power rating rank. Now, I don't know what's wrong with PFF and everybody's left over there. How you can have a quarterback with better grade, better clean rating, better under pressure rating, better big time throw numbers, better less turnover rate than Daniel Jones, and yet you've got Daniel Jones ranked higher.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense whatsoever. None.
No.
No logical sense to me, but hey, what do I know? I'm not a stat geek. So we'll find out. We also have FTN up there. These are the guys. This is Slapman, who did DVOA. Those are your DVOA numbers. And Elias Sports, which is the sports group that gathers all the stats, your newspaper stats, the stuff that goes to NFL.com, ESPN, CBS, all those are gathered by Elias Sports. Those are your cumulative box score stats that you don't see that we see on a regular, ranking this team's offense, defense, whatever. We'll see those and we'll have those stats. That's where that comes from. I've got them in pink right now because those are from the last game we played, which was week 17 last year. They don't have, nothing's updated because we haven't played real games yet. So, and yeah, Anthony, I'm sort of a stat geek myself. Yes, I do like them. Then we can move on to the slide of offense versus defense. Always arrange it. It's who you're playing. A lot of people put offense versus offense, like we had quarterback versus quarterback. It's not offense versus offense. It's offense versus defense. So that's how I rank it. If the defense is better than the offense, you expect that check mark, if you're doing the big board, to go towards that defense. If the offense is better, you put it on the offensive side. And this is a very specific way that you can measure how the teams compare to each other. You also see red diamonds pointing down, green diamonds pointing up. That means their score is moving up or down. Over the season, we track trends. Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Now, it's hard to trend out when the teams they play are different, but sometimes you can see these trends as they go up and down, and that's what you see. And then on the bottom of this, we have the line, and in this case, the Vikings are favored by 1.5, and the over-under, which is 41.5, which tells you what Vegas is thinking. And Vegas, you got to remember, is more times right than anybody else because they're making money off it that way. And that's what you get that's the O versus D slide. This is the D versus O slide. And those are the numbers taken straight from PFF on their green line betting for this game. And you can see they don't think our defense is very good, and they think the Giants' offense is only one rank higher. So we really don't know. These numbers will not start to get any sort of accurate until we get, usually 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season, and we start to see how a team's actually playing. And then, of course, I forgot a slide. Do you believe that? Which slide did I forget? What's the next one?
Where's your special teams?
The special teams one. And we break down the special teams. And I forgot to do the special teams one, where we break down your kickers, punters, and stuff like that. We get in detail on those. Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? How are they for how the special teams, not just the kickers, but the kick return teams, all that sort of stuff. We'll look at how they're doing compared to the rest of the league. We get those numbers from DVOA. They compare them to the rest of the league, right? And at mediocre midpoint, and then they're plus or they're minus below that. So we'll have that slide. And then, of course, I always finish up with probably one of the most important slides, the injury report. What is the injury report as of Saturday? And as of Saturday, your Minnesota Vikings have nobody on the injury report. None. Yes, all week long we were watching Jalen Naylor and Jordan Addison on the report, but they were cleared off yesterday. The Giants, on the other hand, their last report was as of Friday. That's why I have limited practices, LP, versus in or out. We haven't heard in or out yet. And you see the players that were on that list. If I put an asterisk on the right side of their name, that means they are a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's interesting about edge rusher Brian Burns is that he went on the injury report on Friday. with an ankle injury. And anytime you go on late in the week like that, it just generally doesn't mean well. And you got to figure a limited practice will give you about a 50-50 whether they play or not. So.
And they're usually, the coaches are using the Friday practice to determine if your player is going to play on Sunday. So Burns showing up on the injury report yesterday when he wasn't on it on Thursday or Wednesday is potentially very significant for the Giants and for the Vikings, which we'll get into here in a little bit.
And you'll also see, normally they'll be determined and posted on Fridays, in, out, whatever. And now you'll see out, you'll see a question mark for questionable, and there's a third one that's in between those two. You'll see that as well. Out will be in red, questionable will be in yellow, and the other one will be in orange. So color-coded, because I love color coding. And then for away games, outdoors, we include a weather report every week. Why? Because weather affects the football game. It can affect, throwing the ball, handling the ball, running, field conditions, the whole works. It can affect it. Kicking. Well, this is your weather report for tomorrow in New Jersey at the stadium. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. When they get out there prior to kickoff, it's going to be 62 degrees. It's only going to warm up to, by the time it's done, maybe 69. What a great temperature to play football in. And the wind is just at 11 miles an hour. That's a breeze. Not going to affect anything. It is, as Ergo says, perfect football weather. So we don't have to worry about weather tomorrow, and that's a good thing. Now, what Darren's going to worry about is this guy.
I am. And Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, the Giants starting quarterback. And those uniforms that you showed in the slides with Jones wearing, I can't tell if that's the Montreal Canadiens or the New York Giants. But anyway, because they look a lot like the Montreal Canadiens.
You'll see more of them. I got plenty of pictures.
Uniform. But yeah, Darnold and Jones are like their careers are, they're sort of in similar spots, although Jones has played a bit more the past couple of years. And that, highly drafted picks. I think Jones was the 5th overall pick. Darnold was the 3rd. Have had disappointing careers thus far in the NFL. This might be both of their last chances to be starters. More so Darnold than I think Jones. So big years for both of those guys. And with Sam Darnold, this game in the end, this game, this game and the Vikings season, how the Vikings do a lot of it just comes down to how well Sam Darnold plays tomorrow, Dave. Like you said, whoever's the best quarterback is going to, that's likely the team that's going to, whoever's quarterback plays the best tomorrow, that's probably the team that's winning the game. And the talk about Darnold and all the weapons he's had, best situations he's ever been in. I say this every week, it seems. The thing is that one of those weapons that he isn't going to have is, of course, TJ Hawkinson. He will have, it was looking like we were worried about Jordan Addison playing. Well, he's going to be in. Looks like he's full go. Jalen Naylor, too, which is great news. Mm-hmm. You got those guys working with Justin Jefferson. And Aaron Jones come along. That's going to help Sam Darnold. But, one of the things that does worry me about him is that I saw an article about 2 or 3 weeks ago where it talked about Sam Darnold and his quarterback rating when he's got a clean pocket and when he doesn't. And the differences between those, usually quarterbacks, I think every quarterback does not perform as well in a muddy pocket as they do in a clean pocket. But some perform much worse than others. And in Darnold's case, the differences between how he is, his rating and how he plays in a clean pocket and a muddy pocket were horrendously different and not in a good way.
But we saw that Daniels is worse.
Yes.
Ranks better.
Yes. But that has been something that has dogged Darnold his entire career. And also, to add fuel to that fire, I was listening to Judd Zulgad. They were talking about Sam Darnold last week on Score North. And he talked about Judd had been at all of he'd been attending the training camps daily, the portion that the press could see, as well as all the open practices as well. And he said what he noticed was, Darnold would make some really nice throws, great throws, unbelievable throws that you say, no wonder this guy got picked number 3 overall. But there was a lot of times, he said, where when the pocket, the pass rushers got to him, when he seemed confused by the defensive coverage and they got some heat on him, or he made, he got through interceptions. He made very questionable decisions with the ball, either throwing it away or throwing it in bad situations. And so if that's the Sam Darnold you get tomorrow, then the Vikings, the game is not going to end very well for the Vikings. So like Aaron said below, Sam Darnold can't go Nick Mullins on us, just chucking it up here, there, and everywhere. I want him to be effective, but if he can not turn the ball over, and if he is a different quarterback, if Kevin O'Connell has made him a better guy with under his tutelage, and he's got better weapons, so maybe he's not going to be he'll have better options even when he's under duress, then that could lead to a better outcome for Sam Darnold. But again, we've got to see it. Tomorrow's going to be the first chance for us to really see in a regular season game, is this Sam Darnold going to be different than the Sam Darnold was in particularly Carolina and the New York Jets? We'll find out. And sometimes in the NFL, Dave, the pocket is not always going to be clean. There's going to be times where it's going to be muddy, and you've got to make the right decisions and the right throws more often than not when that happens. Can Darnold do that? That's the big question for tomorrow and for the rest of the season, as long as Darnold is quarterback in this team, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, you talked about all the things that he has available to him, and he does. This is the best O-line he's played behind his entire career, which to me is shocking. It's also, I've talked about Kevin O'Connell and the magic that Kevin O'Connell worked with Kirk Cousins on the mental portion of it. Playing under pressure is generally a mental thing. That's where, you don't want to be seeing ghosts like he did with the Jets, whether it was Hoffa or not. You don't want to be seeing ghosts. And as Purple and Gold Bar said, Sam will also have McCown on the sideline in his ear. And it was interesting. This is something that isn't talked about a whole lot, but the whole move that KOC made, hiring Josh McCown, as his quarterback coach and letting go of his previous one, is an upgrade in that position. And so hopefully McCown helps as well to get him over this hump to be, hey, do that final light bulb going off that he can play at a competent NFL starting pro football quarterback level and get above that hump. And I think that's going to be something, hopefully, we get to look forward to, and that's what we see. Now, you talked about things that he has going for him. He's also got another thing going for him.
He does. He's got Aaron Jones. I think, part of not having a muddy pocket and taking some and not getting pressure a lot is maybe if you reduce the amount of times you throw the ball because your running game is going so well. Aaron Jones can be Sam Darnold's best friend in this game and in every game this year if he can play the way I think that Aaron Jones has played when he was with Green Bay, when he was a Vikings killer. And I think that he's primed to have a very good year with the Vikings. And it's going to be very important for the Vikings to have a running game, an effective running game tomorrow against the Giants. And it's going to, as it is going to be every game, but on the road, Darnold's first game with a reputation for being jumpy in the pocket, when things get a little bit chaotic there, to be able to hand off to Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones gets you 4, 5, 6 yards, plus a few explosives in there too, plus catching the ball out of the backfield for some easy screen passes that go for some nice positive gains. Aaron Jones, I think, should be and needs to be a big factor tomorrow. If the Vikings want to stay committed to the run game, and I think tomorrow's game is going to be close, then let's see them do that. And I think Aaron Jones is a running back, unlike Alexander Mattison, where even if he can see things that Alexander Mattison could not see. He can see creases, he can see holes, and I think he can generate something out of nothing a lot better than Alexander Mattison did. And that might be important too, because the holes aren't always going to be there. Another thing that might have going for it, it's a small thing we'll see. I forgot to mention it with Sam Darnold, is MetLife. He played 3 seasons there, all his home games. So even though it's a road game, it's not really a road game for him. So he would know how the turf goes, how the wind, how the stadium plays, what the sight lines are. That may help them be a little bit
sound.
more. Yeah, that may help them be just. That may help with the comfort of playing on the road a little bit more than if he was playing in, like, say, Lambeau for only the second time in his career. So I don't know how much better that will make him or how much of a difference that will make. But I think it is, even though the games he played in the MetLife, they wouldn't be mostly happy memories for him. He's not there as a Jet anymore. He's there as a Viking, and it's a familiar surroundings for him. So hopefully that will help. But Aaron Jones is going to be a big help for him. It's great that Addison's going to be playing and seems to be at full strength. It's great that Jalen Naylor appears to be back after he got a mystery ankle injury. Also going to be big. Does Brian Burns play? That's a big thing. But if he does play, and he and Kayvon Thibodeau are 2 very strong edge rushers. So if they play, that means that our tackles, Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw, got to play the way we expect them to. And beyond those, there's a big guy in the middle, Dexter Sexy Lawrence, who gives everybody a lot of problems on the interior. He did it to the Vikings in 2022 in both of their games, and he's going to be a problem for us, and it's going to be very important for Blake Brandel, Garrett Bradbury, and Ed Ingram to handle this guy and at least keep Lawrence to a stalemate, if nothing else. Don't get overpowered. Don't allow him to get penetration and blow up run plays and create pressure up the middle on Darnold when he goes back to pass. So that's a pretty big, important battle there too, that the Vikings, I think, have to at least not get obliterated by Dexter Lawrence.
I see what you did there with a big battle. He is a big man.
He is a very big man, all 350 pounds of him.
Pro Bowl player. He's good.
Yes. The Viking, Giants secondary looks pretty weak. They did sign one of the corners they played the most last year in Adoree Jackson this week, but how much of a factor he'll be. But that's a secondary that if Darnold has a little bit of time with his arm and with the Jefferson, Addison, and Naylor in there and the other cast of thousands, we should be able to get some explosive plays, some pretty good passing game going with that matchup. I think. I think on the defensive side of the ball, Dave, a lot of new faces for defensive coordinator Brian Flores to work in. Grenard, Van Ginkel, Cashman, Turner, Gilmore, Griffin. Again, Flores squeezed a lot out of a so-so batch of talent last year. Yes, Danielle Hunter is gone, but the defense, again, seems more talented and deeper than what it was last year. And I'm very keen, and I think a lot of Vikings fans are very keen to see how that defense plays against the New York Giants. And, like you said with the stats, Daniel Jones doesn't handle the pressure very well. I don't think people know this, but do Vikings fans know that Giants quarterbacks were sacked 85 times last year? 85.
That blew my mind.
85 times.
That's amazing.
Not if you're a Giants quarterback, but
but I mean, one of my things that I've called for this year is the Vikings should get, I'm hoping for at least 50 sacks as a defense. And for an offense to take 85 5? Wow.
Now, so that's an issue. And somebody mentioned that a few minutes ago that the Giants upgraded their offensive line due to that situation at 3 positions, and we'll get into that just a little bit later. But Daniel Jones, I think he does. There's a lot of things he doesn't do well, but one thing he has done well in the past, even though he's coming off a knee injury, I believe, is that he's has been one of the better rushing quarterbacks in the NFL the past few years. So if he is able to, if you let him get outside the pocket and create plays with his legs instead of his arm, that can hurt you. So Brian Flores' defense, they got to have a good rush plan for Daniel Jones tomorrow. Keep him in the pocket, make him, keep that pocket muddied, make him beat you with his arm. And Jones, they're also going to have a plan for dealing with. I think Jones in the past, he likes to get the ball out quickly, very quickly. So he likes to dink and dunk and move the ball up that way. So Vikings pass rush and how they handle the coverages to take away some of that short stuff, or at least limit the yards after the catch when they do catch it, going to be very important to the Vikings' defensive success. But I think they are going to have a lot of success tomorrow on that. On the offensive line, that 85 sacks, I'm very interested to see how Van Ginkel, you got up there, Turner, and Jonathan Grenard, who are all the new guys on that front seven, how they make life difficult for Jones and the Giants in general. Now, the Giants offense doesn't have Saquon Barkley anymore, an excellent back when healthy. They don't have Darren Waller, who is retired. They've been replaced by Devin Singletary and rookie Theo Johnson from Penn State, who I wanted the Vikings to draft or suggested to draft. That guy. So they're missing some weapons. On the offensive line, they signed John Runyon to start at left guard away from Green Bay, another guy I thought might be a possibility for us to sign. They signed former Jet, Packer, Panther, Bill, Raider, Greg Van Roten. He's the starting right guard. They've got Jermaine Elinimur, who was with the Raiders last year as well. He's starting at right tackle instead of Evan Neal. So on paper, the offensive line for the Giants looks better than what they had last year, but I still expect that Flores is going to make good use of his new toys, and Grenard and Van Ginkel and Turner in particular. And, they're going to create some real problems for the Giants up front. A problem for us might be Malik Neighbors. We have heard, I've been hearing really good things about the guy, the rookie at LSU, looked explosive in preseason. So he's going to be a problem for us. He looks like he's the latest star rookie wideout, is going to make a huge impact on the NFL right from the day one. And this is where the Vikings revamped secondary is going to be interesting to see. It's going to be how they perform, and important that they perform well. Last year, you had Byron Murphy, Mekhi Blackman, and Caleb Evans were your top 3. Evans is benched. Now he might be your 5th or 6th cornerback. Blackman's out for the year with the ACL. And they brought in Shaq Griffin and Stephon Gilmore and Byron Murphy. And between those 3 now, who are your top 3, they've got over 30 NFL seasons played already. A lot of experience there. Not the youngest guys, but they are veterans who know the tricks of the trade. And so we're going to see, I think Neighbors is going to get targeted a lot. The Giants are going to go to him, try to get him the ball, try to create some explosives with him. And we're going to see if the Vikings, the savvy of Gilmore and Griffin in particular and Murphy, if their veteran tricks and, being pros, if they can fluster the rookie and keep him contained. I think Neighbors will, get 5 to 7 catches, but I think that he's going to have a hard time getting explosives. They're going to be more shorter gains. And so I think that the Vikings are going to do a good job on him tomorrow and be able to not totally eliminate him, but keep him from being like a big play guy, like getting a Jaden Reed 70-yard pitch and catch like we saw in the Eagles Packers game the Friday night.
You forget Josh Metellus, who is the Swiss Army knife is the defense. That you talk about the defense and what Flores is going to do. I think that's going to be the biggest positive thing that we have. I don't think Daniel Jones is anywhere near prepared for what's going to be thrown his way. And being able to read it and do all the other stuff. This isn't the Vikings when Ed Donachelle was coaching that defense.
No.
So this is going to be, I think, hopefully a shock for him tomorrow as he sees it. And I hope they absolutely obliterate. The defense obliterates the Giants' offense. It just makes it miserable for him. And it's all because of what Flores does. And I think that's going to be part of the key to victory tomorrow is that the defense holds these guys, has their heads swimming. And that gives time for our offense to get it, as said by Dante Culpepper, get its roll on.
Yes, I think that I expect that Flores' defense is going to be a big reason why we win tomorrow, and I do think we win. I think it might be it's going to be a close game. When a Vikings games under Kevin O'Connell generally not been close, but I'm seeing it. I think that it's going to be a stressful game as it normally is, closer than we want it to be. But I see Flores' defense really creating big problems for the Giants throughout the game, and we win like 19-17, that sort of a thing, and get that first W to start the season, which is important because we all know what the schedule is after this. Packers, although the Packers game in Lambeau might not be as difficult if Jordan Love has sprained his MCL, which we're hearing now, and is out 3 to 6 weeks. But, Jets, 49ers, Texans, the Rams, and that sort of thing. 4 of those next 6 games after this one are at home, which in theory would be a good thing, but we saw how poorly the Vikings played at home last year. So,
and hopefully that changes this season as well.
Indeed. But I think very important. I think 3 of the last 4 seasons, the Vikings have gone 0-2 to start the year. And that's always a death knell for your playoff hopes. So this is a game you're favored on the road against a team that some people think is going to be either the worst or the second worst in the NFL. They might not think a lot of the Vikings, but they certainly don't think very much. And they being the national football media, they certainly don't think very much of the Giants. The Vikings got to win this game. They got to, even though it's the first game of the season. But hey, this is a game that they're capable of winning, even on the road, and they have to play well and win it.
Seti, I appreciate you hopping on and joining us. Dayball is familiar with Flores with his time down in Miami, but Flores has changed a few things during his time with his year in Pittsburgh and then last year with us, because he doesn't have the same type of talent he had back then. He's trying to assemble something similar, but it's so it's not going to be quite the same. But even though Dayball is, I don't think Daniel Jones is. And that's where, it's going to hit the road. Dayball may, try to coach him up, say, hey, expect this, expect that, expect this. And maybe they did get that coaching this week. Don't know. But I suspect that he's going to see some things he's not quite used to. But thank you for coming on and watching. I appreciate that. Any last words there, Darren?
I did have a little bit of last words. I guess the only thing is really excited for tomorrow's game, and this is the start of like how the seasons change for all of us as football fans, right? From now for the next 18, 19, 20 weeks, well, more than that, until the Super Bowl, your Sunday is going to be worked around whenever the Vikings play or any other NFL games you want to watch. So, that whole time from March till late August, where our Sundays were like, oh, what are we going to do? Now, at depending on your time zone, at noon Central Time, most of the time, you are glued to the TV because the Vikings are playing somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are, and it's wonderful. And
it is.
And as
Until
Gary
it
says,
is.
let's get the damn W. Absolutely. Now, I was asked, what's the plan for tomorrow? Always, when there's a Vikings game, we go live at the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. We might go slightly before that, but we are live. And what that affords you is the opportunity to join me and various members from 2O Bloggers, whether it be Darren sometimes, we get Tyler, we're going to have Justin sometimes, and we hopefully will get live from the stadium when that happens with Sally. Sal's going to be here as well, coming in, hopefully maybe even tomorrow. We'll find out. And then we're going to be able to watch that final 2 minutes together. Hopefully it's a win. And then we get to react and talk about all what we saw and what was cool about the game or what may not have been. We'll find out. Does, Bill the Leg Reichert, blast a new record for the Vikings? We'll find out. And you all are welcome, and I encourage you to join us tomorrow, live at the 2-minute warning, because that's when we're going to be here. And hopefully we're cheering on our Vikings' first win of the season, going one game up on that team from Wisconsin, which warms my heart.
Yes.
What do we say, buddy?
We say SKOL Vikings, baby, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of 2O Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcasts as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!